Hey there, Commercial Construction Coffee Talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation Magazine. This is what it used to look like. I'm pulling out some archives here. July 2021. Lachlan Caffey from JLL, really cool project they did up in Nashville. And let's see how big this one was. This was 140 pages. And always see like what this is a picture of my father and his brother way back in the day in Corson Furniture Industries. They were in upholstery. This is in their showroom at 32nd and Lex in the Big Apple. In any event, uh, I was talking about a chair that actually this chair my sister's boyfriend found. He was out on a site visit and he walked around the house and he saw this chair and the cushion was lifted up and Crestline was one of our lines. And it looks that chair had to be like 50 years old and it's still looking good. We had craftsmanship. There you go. It's still sitting and looking great. But anyway, it's always good to hold the magazine in my hands, but we're digital now. Last issue we're printing was August of 2021 when we had White Castle on the cover, biggest facility they ever did. And don't miss the printer, don't miss the post office. And being digital's been awesome. Last year we had just under 49 million people and about 2 million unique users during the year that hit the website. So all you out there on the web, thank you so much for consuming our content and sending us content to post up on the platform. Couldn't have done it without you. You're golden in my eyes. So, but today, really, really cold. Maybe some snow tomorrow, but warm weather ahead. And before you know it, it's going to be spring, and then the pollen comes, and everything's coated with green down here in the south. But today, I have a nice gentleman. He's up in the Big Apple area. His name is Mark Goldfinger, and he's with a company called Mindspace. They do that flexible space, and he's got locations all over the world. And the reason why I want to Mark on because right now people are kind of in that. What do I do? I used to have a big office before, the roller coaster started that we've all been on for the last 4 or 5 years. Do I get rid of my space? Do I cut down? Do I go the flexible route? And this is just another opportunity where if you're a business owner, you're thinking about things, this is an alternative way to, conduct meetings, at your leisure, and definitely a cool concept. So, Mark, say hello to our listeners out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hey, listeners, thanks for tuning in today. And David, thank you so much for having us. I know our CEO has been a part of this before, so I'm really excited to kind of continue that trend and hopefully answer some questions and share some insight on what we're seeing in the workforce.
Yeah, yeah. So I know it's cold. I know it's cold up there, right? Because my sister's in
Freezing.
Huntington. She said it was like freezing cold and windy, right?
Freezing. I woke up this morning, I was telling you before during the pre-show, I'm also a big runner. And I woke up this morning, I wake up at 5 o'clock every day, start the day, and I open up the weather app. I'm like 25 degrees. Okay, like I could probably run outside, scroll down a little bit, and it says feels like it's 7. And I was just like, nope, 5 a.m., no light out. I will happily take the run into a treadmill. So it is cold, but I'm with you. I think Old Man Winter is hopefully saying goodbye fairly soon, and we'll get some good warm weather going into the weekend, and then we could transition from running to golf.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Listen, we had wicked rain last week, and we were just below. I saw DC got some snow, and they were just
Oh
north
yeah.
of us. We just missed it, and we only have so many snowplows in Atlanta. So whenever it snows or sleets, you just stay
Fair,
in your car and you stay at home because it's bumper
fair.
cars, and it's just not worth going out on the road. But we just missed. I told my wife, I'm like, if this was ice or snow, I'm telling you, we would have been like homebound for a good week, and nothing would have been happening up on the lake lot build. So no one was going to get up there. Uh, but I'm looking forward to some warm weather. And
Yes, I
yeah,
think we all are.
yeah, absolutely. So this is the way we're going to Mark. This is the way we're going to do our episode. It's in three parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, where you went
Great.
to school, sports, kids, whatever, pets, how you ended up or where you are today. Then we'll talk about lessons learned from the roller coaster that we've all been on over the last 4 or 5 years, and any cool projects that you want to talk about or trends that you see out there. And then you'll leave your contact info, one positive thought or phrase, and then we'll finish up the episode. So with that
Cool.
said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Awesome. Hopefully I don't bore anyone with it. So I'm 36. I am married. I've been married for now 3 years, and next month I will have been with my wife for 5 years. We have I think she's beautiful. We have a beautiful daughter, Noah. She's 8 months old. So kind of transitioning to fatherhood has definitely been a learning curve on its own, and one that every time I think I understand how to make it work, I'm quickly shown that like, nope, there's now a new thing you have to learn. So for all the fathers out there, I promise you, it gets easier if you're less than 8 months in, and if you have someone who's more than 8 months, don't spoil anything for me. I know it only gets harder. But as I said, I'm 36. I'm born and raised in New York City. Spent kind of the first really 18, 19 years of my life in Manhattan. Went to high school, played soccer, tennis, volleyball. I was the captain of our varsity soccer team, captain of the varsity volleyball team. Ended up I graduated from Hunter College. So kind of stayed in New York with my BA in economics, where I was the captain of our college tennis team, won our conference twice, went to nationals twice, got our butts kicked at nationals, which was definitely a very humbling experience, but really kind of preps you for the real world, right? Not everything is as easy as it seems, especially if you think about kind of the past 5 or 6 years roller coaster that David, you mentioned we've been on. Throughout my kind of high school and college career, I also, I worked full time pretty much after school, and I grew up working in advertising. I think this was really kind of like at the height of the economy before the '08, bust, and it was amazing. I saw, people spending tons of money on ads, three-piece suits, poker nights, helicopters to the Hamptons, fancy dinners, ridiculous, just absolutely absurd things. And as a 17-year-old, I was like, this is phenomenal. I want to be in advertising. Like, why would I not want this to be part of my life? Right. And I think that was where I also realized that you weren't selling things, you were problem solving. Uh, People had an issue. We needed to solve it. They paid us, and we were able to sell them our solution, excuse me. So I did that throughout college. After college, I ended up moving to London in the UK, where I went to get my MBA in international business. It was a 12-month program going to school full time in London and working, and where I worked at Deutsche Bank, and then 4 months living in Bangkok, Thailand, where I finished up my curriculum and wrote my graduate thesis. Had a lot of fun. Definitely would highly recommend the program. I also learned what I don't love, and that was being in finance, being behind a computer all day, working in the banking world. It wasn't for me. I wanted to be out there with people and really go back to kind of that selling atmosphere. Joined another advertising company where I was at for about 16 to 18 months, and then got really, really fortunate and ended up being asked to join a really small startup at the time. This was 2015. I was employee 300, and the company was called WeWork. So as many of you know, they were flexible office providers, looking to really change the way people work out of the space. So I joined WeWork in, like I said, early 2015. I joined as one of their expansion leads. So my job was to open up new markets from a sales community and marketing perspective. And I lived out of a suitcase and on a plane. And every 3 months, I went to a new market. So I started training in New York. I then moved out to London to help us open up our third, fourth, and fifth location. I then moved to Austin, Texas to help with the expansion of our second floor. I then moved to Denver, Colorado to help do the opening of our first two buildings. And after about a year of traveling, I realized this might not be the life that I want to live. It's exhausting. So I came back to New York. I told the company that I was done with the traveling and I would find a role out of HQ or something else I would, go off and do. And they said, okay, let's work in advertising. You have that background. I was there for about 24 hours when one of the executives called me into the office and said, we need you to move to London. So I want to be in New York. It's like, no. You'll come back to New York later. It'll always be there. You'll go to London. So I ended up saying yes. I was 25 at the time. Work was my number one priority, of course. So I moved to London to be our first sales director for the UK. We had 5 buildings at the time. I helped grow us to about 20 buildings, helped really expand on the sales team, helped build out different functionalities within the sales organization. And then as we continued to grow and expand throughout the rest of Europe, I promoted someone on my team to take over the sales director role, and I started to lead our European expansion of really pre-sales and new market openings. Fast forward a little bit longer, we were continued to expand. I was asked to go to new places, ended up spending 3 months in Singapore, helping with the Southeast expansion, and then ended up living in Shanghai for about 6 months, where I was our head of sales for Greater China. I think in 2018, I did about 340 of 360 days on the road. It was exhausting, but it was the time of my life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But ultimately, at the beginning of 2018, unfortunately, my father had passed away after fighting prostate cancer for about 9 years. And that was in January. I traveled throughout the entire year. I was just like head down in work, distract myself. Don't think about, losing your best friend, really just like push forward. And then at the end of 2018, I was like, I need to stop being selfish. I need to come back to the US. My mom lives in California. I need to be closer to her. So I promoted someone else to kind of help lead our European expansion. And I was able to figure out a way to move back to our global headquarters out of New York and run our global expansion. Did that for about a year or so, watched the ups and downs of WeWork, which we can always talk about on a different episode. That's not
Oh,
why we're
I
here.
know. I believe me. I know.
But again, a lot of fun. At the end of 2020, I was there for a little over 6 years. I gave everything I had. I felt that, I was able to see the new direction the company was going on. It wasn't necessarily where I was going to go. And I was approached by an old boss and mentor and very good friend to come join a new startup. This time there were only 4 people, and the company was an e-commerce aggregator. So what we did was we acquired brands that were sold on Amazon and looked to scale and grow them and make them more operationally efficient, so that we can ultimately get them to a higher growth and scale them on and off of Amazon. So I joined as employee 4. I helped run our business development, our marketing, our PR, hiring, culture, etc. I was there for about 3 years, acquired 30 plus brands, did about 175 million in revenue, 200 full-time employees. It was a ton of fun. I love being in the hyper growth phase, but kind of after, close to 10 years of always being on the hyper growth side of it, I realized, maybe it's time for me to take a step back. At this point, my wife was 6 months pregnant. I realized everything was about to get flipped upside down. So I left that company called Unibrands, and I took some time for myself. Tried working on my golf game. I realized the more I played, the worse I got. So I stopped playing every single day. I realized nothing was going to change that. And then I got an email from a recruiter that Mindspace was looking for a new general manager for North America. And I kind of laughed to myself. I was like, do I really want to go back to coworking? Is this really what I want to do? And if I do it, is it weird to not go back to WeWork? Like, how does this work? And my wife, very supportive, thankfully, said, take the interview. You always talk about those days. You loved what you were doing. Take the interview. So I take the interview and I get off of an hour call and I am just glowing. I loved talking about the flexible office space, solutions. I love talking about community, member experience, hospitality, real estate, everything, just, the way in which the world is moving. And, we'll talk a little bit later about trends, David, but, everyone is moving towards this flexible office space solution. Large companies don't need to have, and CFOs don't want to have, 500,000 square feet on their P&Ls. They don't want that cost. They want something that's more flexible and agile. They want to be able to grow for a year, downsize, grow, hybrid, all these different aspects of how people are coming in and out of the office. So after about, I think, 10 or 11 interviews, each one got me more and more excited, and none of which felt like interviews. They all felt like, I was already part of the company and we were talking about strategy for the US and how would I do this? How would we navigate this? If we were to expand, where would we do that? Why would we do it? I was finally offered the role. So, I had about 3 weeks before I was about to become a father. And I said, look, everyone always tells you fatherhood or being a parent is going to completely be crazy. So I said, okay, how can I make this even more insane? Let's start a brand new job. So I joined Mindspace about 8 months ago, the same age as my daughter. And here we are. We have 6 locations around the US. As you mentioned, I'm sitting in New York out of our Williamsburg location in 25 Kent. We have a location in Philadelphia. We have a location in Washington, D.C. We opened up recently 2 locations in Miami, which I think is unbelievable for us, and definitely a very large growing ecosystem down there from a tech perspective and from a VC perspective. And then we have our original US Mindspace out in San Francisco, which opened in 2018.
Awesome. I remember the WeWork, those guys came out of like nowhere. And
Yeah.
and then, obviously, hey, listen, every business has its ups and downs. And but it did open the door for a lot of other people to get into that space as
Yeah.
competitors or real estate people.
It did.
And
And I think, I think competition makes you better, right? And
oh yeah.
this you were a collegiate athlete, right?
Hmm.
Having competition drives you to do better. So I think that was really successful and helpful. And I think, Adam Newman and the WeWork team really helped change the way commercial real estate was done. And commercial real estate hadn't been changed in hundreds of years, right? So it was like all of a sudden, it wasn't just the big brokers out there. There were these like flexible providers that could be a lot more agile than your 5, 10, or 15-year leases. And I think people got very excited about that. And then, of course, there was the pandemic, which, was awful in a lot of ways, but also accelerated the way in which people think about being in an office and how they need to be in the office. Do they need to be in the office 5 days a week? Can they look for a hybrid solution? And if they can, how can they start to save money at the holdco level and pay to be in a an all-in-one stop shop where everything is included? It's really just a plug and play system, and that's what I think Mindspace does, and that's what we provide to our members, whether, you're a writer that just doesn't want to write out of the coffee shop anymore because you want to be in a collaborative community and feel like you really belong, or whether you're a Fortune 500 or even a Fortune 100 company and you need a full floor somewhere, Mindspace can also be there for you for that.
Yeah, there was they just put a flexible workspace. I live in Sugar Hill, but this is in Swanee, which is right next to me. And
Okay.
anyway, LinkedIn, I, accepted her, and she's like, "Oh, you need to come by and look at this." And I said, "I'm probably not a good candidate, but I always like looking at the stuff and,
Right.
seeing, what you designed and, how many spaces that you have." And it I did an event in New York in 2023 in the fall, and I had a partner on the event, and we needed to go find a space. So we looked at a couple of the flexible spaces. We found this penthouse. I think it was on 44th and 10th.
Okay.
Really cool space. I mean, they did weddings up there, all sorts of stuff. We,
Yeah.
we kind of we had a little seminar. We did some one-on-ones. We had a guy that came out that did Johnny Cash at the end. But uh, it those opportunities are so cool to have because if everything's got to be a really good fit, if when you're doing an event, and the a lot of people that have space in New York, it's kind of like a hybrid. And everybody told me, look, if you do an event in New York, you don't want to do it on a Monday, you don't want to do it on a Friday because,
No one's
everybody's,
there.
especially if it's, during the summer, they're all going out to the Hamptons. So,
Awesome.
or taking the water taxi out there or driving on the LIE. So the, uh, but a lot of people, a lot of business owners or companies that have real estate, they're in that kind of catch 22. Do I make my people come back? Do I downsize my space? What do I do? And right now, occupancy in all the major cities, it's down. And the person who comes up with the idea of taking an old building and maybe making it into apartments or condos, the biggest thing is that the drywall's already up and they only have two bathrooms, a men's and a women's on the floor. How do I put ten people or 20 units in there? And
Right.
uh, that's but they want to be like a hotel. You want to have your hotel full every night, from a cash
Yeah.
flow point of view. So,
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why a lot of the landlords are also turning to operators like Mindspace who have a proven track record of opening, a floor, whether it's 35, 45, 55,000 square feet and getting it full within the first year. I'm sitting in our Williamsburg location. We're at 92% occupancy right now. And we've been open for less than 17 months. And you walk in and the vibe is just the energy is incredible. It's like you walk in, whether it's at 7:30 in the morning when I come in or 6:30 at night when people are leaving, people are working. And as an entrepreneur, you want to walk into space like that and be like, wow, these people are hustling. I also want to hustle. So I think it really is just, it's a great space. It's a great idea. And it's for the providers who are able to really deliver on it. I think it's become an incredible concept. And then just touching base really quickly, you mentioned you and your buddy were looking to host an event. It's also one of the things we're able to do. I did a pipeline call today with one of our, community managers in New York, and she was going through her pipeline of all the different events. Someone reached out because they want to host a wedding here. Someone reached out because they want to host a 50th anniversary for the company and do a gala with a live band, like you were talking about. And our design is all of our design we do in-house. So everything is very, curated, not only to make sure that you're keeping to the Mindspace brand, but so that you're also keeping to the local, like neighboring aesthetic. So in Williamsburg, your Mindspace is going to be a little bit different than it might be in, the center of Berlin. But at the same time, when you walk into a Mindspace, you're going to feel that same sense of home and collaborativeness.
It was funny because last week when the rains came in, uh, the internet went out of my at the house, and I normally will just go down to the grocery store. They have a Starbucks in there, or there's a Starbucks
Right,
down the road. But the grocery store is freezing cold, and
right,
the Starbucks is packed. And
right.
I told my wife, I'm like, you know what? If those places are packed, maybe I'll go down to that flexible
To the
workspace.
co-working space.
Well, I was just about ready, and I was like, and the internet came back on. It was like it wasn't meant to be that day. But I was like, you know what? She invited me to come over and look at it. I'll just go up and say, look, man, I need some internet, and I'll come and look at your space.
I think
And
that's perfect. That's what we're here for.
yeah, and she's like, look, I'm 25, 30 miles north of Atlanta, so she's probably the only one in here. I'm sure it's
Right.
beautiful, and but I was just about ready to call her. Timing in business is everything. It's just the reality
Correct.
of it. And uh, and like I said, when I was in New York, the only reason I went there was because the guy that I was doing the event with, I wanted to make sure I said, look, we're going to look at a couple of really cool spaces, and then we're going to look at, a couple of corporate spaces, just so you can get a feel of
Right.
which way you want to go. I knew which way I wanted to go, but just so you always want to look at different options so you can make a rational decision. And and every space is going to be different. And we did actually the year or two before we did it at the AMA, which is right on Broadway. Uh, where is it? They used to where the M&M store. It was right across the street. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. Okay.
yeah. So anyway, they had we did one down here in Atlanta one time. We had a women's event that we did, and they're so cool because the hospitality's awesome. They treat you like gold. The food's good, clean, and everything's taken out that whether I've done plenty of events over my 25 years where you got to worry if the eggs are hot, do you have the right speaker, did you pick the right hotel, all these things where you go to one of these flexible places and maybe it's just a couple hours that you need it there, or maybe you need it for the whole day, depending on what type of event you're doing. But it's an alternative turnkey one-stop shopping, in my opinion, to get that. And I would think that as you grow your portfolio, that there's going to be a lot of real estate opportunities that are out there because there's so many people that are in that catch-22 mindset right now that what do I do with this space? I'm not going to, people aren't coming back, or they're only spending so many days in the city. And, what do I do? And right now it's the golden age. So every day is an adventure of
Yeah.
what's going to happen. And, but you've got a newborn. So I know you're not getting any sleep, so,
So thankfully, and I joke, I give my wife a lot of, crap for this, but she was like a drill sergeant when Noah was born and was like very, very sleep regimented. So thankfully now, knock on wood, she is sleeping through the night, which is like, I never thought those days would come. But like I said, for the new fathers out there, I promise you, like the days are very long, but the weeks are very short. So
Yeah.
definitely cherish everything you got with your newborns.
Well, believe me, my kid's 25 and I just thought he was in diapers the other day. So trust me,
Exactly.
it goes really, really quick. And
Exactly.
yeah, and we have four rescue dogs, so I do poop patrol once a week. But I always tell people, look, if you're gonna have kids, you gotta have another. If you're gonna have a second kid or a third, you gotta do it while you're still in diapers. Because once you get out of diapers, it's
Don't
very
ever want to
tough
go
to get.
back. Yeah,
It's very tough to get back. But as I look back, I wish I would have had more kids, But we have dogs, so that's just, the reality of it. But
fair.
uh, but sleep, listen, some kids they just will not sleep, or they'll
I
sleep
know.
all day and you're up all night, and eventually they'll figure it out and get out of diapers and all that. But it goes quick, and but some of the best times you're gonna have is like right now, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I was, I do a ton of traveling. Like you said, I'm the GM for North America. So I'm constantly going to visit, all of our locations. I want to spend time with my team. But it's tough being on the road and being away from my wife and my daughter. I always leave early in the morning, so I never get to see my daughter. So I try and come home when I'm in New York a little bit earlier so that I can spend, some tummy time with her. And I walked in from, I was up for 17 hours yesterday. I was on a 5 a.m. train to DC. I didn't get back into New York until, 7 p.m., 7:30, and I'm exhausted. I'm absolutely drained. All I want to do is get to sleep. But I walk in, my daughter's on her tummy, and she like looks at me and she just like giggles and smiles. I'm like, everything went away. I was like,
Yeah.
I can stay up all night with you if you want. Like, it's just like, so I really agree with you. It really is all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking back over the last, 3 to 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
March 2020, everything goes kaput. It's supposed to go on for a couple of weeks, couple of months, and here we are still talking about it. I mean, we're out of the tunnel. There's still some potholes and, obstacles in the way. But
Yeah.
talk about, how you even in your own mindset, how you weathered the storm as you look at where you're, going down the road today.
Yeah. So I think in my own mindset, I was living by myself. I worked really hard to keep in a routine, which I think actually translate, from, as I'm sure you know, from being an athlete and still like even to today, like really making sure that you have something that you're always constantly doing, at least once a day, so that you can also feel like the day wasn't a waste. I think there's a famous Navy SEAL commander gave an incredible commencement speech
Make your
about the
bed.
exactly the
I
importance of
know
making
it.
bed every single day, so
First
that
thing you
way.
do, make your bed. Start on a
Exactly.
positive note. You did something.
Exactly. It's not only started on the positive note, right? But it's also at the end of the day when you come home, no matter how bad of a day you had, if you think you got nothing done and you look at the made bed, you're able to still be like, you know what? I still got something done today. So I was very big into routine, personal habits, things like that in the own mindset and understanding that like we will eventually work through this. I didn't know what that meant, but we will work through this. Um, from a business perspective, and I started to touch on this a little bit earlier, but it really accelerated the need for flexible office space. It was detrimental to the real estate market. No one was going into the space. No one wanted to pay their leases, so landlords were having a lot of trouble trying to figure out what to do. And co-working spaces or flexible office spaces like Mindspace had all of these spaces that were leased out or rented out, but no one was coming in. So they also had to figure out a way to keep the lights on. If you were able to make it through that, which thankfully, I'm really proud we were, 2022, excuse me, was actually a phenomenal year in Mindspace, and we've continued to see elevated growth from a profitability level and an expansion level. But for us, it really, people started to come to us and they're like, wait, can you have space for 55 people? But what about if we only have 30 people coming in every 2 days and then the other 20? Like, how can we make solutions like that work? And for us, we were able to do that. If it involved knocking down some walls to make a larger office, if it involved giving them space that maybe didn't fit 55 all at once, but maybe fit 35 so that they can alternate days, whatever they needed, we were able to accommodate for conference rooms, phone booths, event spaces. And like you said, everything was always included. So for us, I think the roller coaster has really been like, reminding yourself of the mindset to like stay strong, know that we can get out of this and know that like you need to power through because there really is no alternative unless you want to go sit in a dark room and cry all day, which is not what I personally would recommend. And then from a business perspective, we saw that, or from a reward perspective, we saw that because we were powered through, because we weathered the storm, we're now able to be even stronger. We've opened up more locations. We have 50 locations around the globe. And it really is. It's been an incredible kind of 2.5, 3 years for us. And Mindspace has been around for 11 years now. So it was like they were able to see the start of the co-working boom. They were able to get to a really nice place, fundraising, etc. The pandemic happened. We had to pause. We had to be very smart, reflective, head down, keep pushing through. And now we've been able to open up that growth again.
So first things first, I use that make your bed gig every day on my videos. And
I
people are
love that.
probably, if you're out there and you're watching, you know what I'm talking about because I always say, look, I know you've heard me say this a million times, but you get up, you make your bed, get in the shower, put a positive thought in your mind, put a smile on your face, brush your teeth, dress for success. I don't even care if you're working out of your house. Get your bed made so you've done something
Every
positive right off the bat and start. It doesn't matter what time you got up,
every
but I
day.
say that every day. On my video. Oh, sometimes, but I say, I heard, what you got to do on Monday morning when you start your weekend. You got to make your bed first. It's the best thing
Yeah.
you can do. And
And I'll tell you this, it was like when I was, with my wife, when we were living at our apartment during COVID, all of us were working from home. I would get up, I would work out, or I would just get up and shower, and then I'd throw jeans on. And she used to think I was crazy. She's like, "How you're working from home? Why are you wearing jeans?" I go, "Because I'm working. You don't work in
yeah,
sweatpants, you work in jeans or
yeah.
slacks or a suit." And then at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., whenever I would sign off, I would then change into my at-home comfy clothes and I would go from there. But it really is all about that mindset and driving the right routine.
Oh yeah. So do you get involved, in the design construction of your facilities at all, or how
So
does
not
that
me
work?
personally. I think, as the GM, I am the US stakeholder. So everything that we do at the end of the day before we open up a new building, we have something called an investment committee, and every single stakeholder needs to sign off and say they're happy with this, they're comfortable with this is what they would change, whether it's the pricing, the layout mix, the where the location is, what the design is, everything like that. But our designers are unbelievable. They're beyond talented. Every space is phenomenal. I don't know if it would mess with the video, but if you say yes, I'm happy to also, you're on my laptop. I can bring you into the common area if you want to see what the space would be. I think 25 Kent is one of our most beautiful locations, exposed red brick. So yeah.
Yeah. What's a typical turnaround if you find a building that you want to, well, either lease, buy, or or renovate? I know that's a very generic time period, but
Yeah. So
because
I think probably you could say 18 to 24 months, right? Negotiating the lease, figuring out the right deal structure with the landlord takes a lot of time. And then once we get there, I would say within 12 to 15 months, we're able to open up a new location.
so out of the 50 locations, which one's your favorite besides Kent?
Uh, I love all of them. I love all of them. We
Nothing
actually,
wrong with that.
I love all of them. I will say, I was in Warsaw a couple weeks ago, and we opened up this new, beautiful building, Skyliner, and I was just blown away. It is the new like new version of Mindspace, if you will, Mindspace 2.0, and it is flawless. So I'm looking forward to opening up our seventh location in the U.S. and bringing that here as well.
Well, there's plenty of space available in Atlanta. Not that that's a good or
It's a,
bad thing, but it as a Yankee living in the South since '92, it's the LA of the South, and they could always use another one.
duly
Competition.
noted.
Hey, to be the best, you gotta play against the best. That's just the reality of it. So
I agree. I very
yeah,
much agree.
yeah, absolutely. So. Um, if anybody was out there, if you're out there in commercial construction coffee talk land and you're thinking about, oh, maybe I was thinking about doing an event, or maybe I was, maybe I don't want to go, I want to expand into a certain city, and maybe I don't want to make that splurge and sign a lease. Maybe I want to go the flag. If someone wanted to reach out to you to ask some questions, or if you're thinking about expanding into that marketplace and so forth, how would someone reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm always on LinkedIn, linkedin.com, Mark Goldfinger. And I'm happy to give my email address. It's Mark, MARK .g at mindspace.me. So it's mark.g at mindspace.me. Any questions, inquiries, and I can always loop in the right person to help make it happen.
All right, I'll put that in. I'll put some text in there when I do some editing, but I'll put that in the description area as well. And
Perfect.
and listen, if anybody wants to reach me, I'm at David C at ccr-mag.com. And listen, Mark got on here because his publicist sent me a PR piece, and it had been a while. I was like, okay, this is really cool. And time, like I said, I know what the occupancy rates are. I get these research reports, and this is just another avenue that you can go down if you're thinking about holding an event or want to open up a new office and you're not ready to purchase a building or a facility. This is definitely a nice alternative, and you get that collaboration and everything else that like you said, hospitality, it's retail, it's all of those things, and but it's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. So if I wouldn't have received the press release from the PR person, Mark wouldn't have been on here. So listen,
I
send us
agree.
stuff. We look at everything. All right. It's very tough to get in the magazine, but we have plenty of other digital platforms that we post stuff all day long. And it could be a new location. It could be an anniversary for your company. It could be a charity golf tournament that you're doing. Whatever. Let us just be the judge. And we post it. We make sure that it's SEO and all that SEO, search engine optimization. That's how Google finds you, and we send the URL, you share it. It's a win-win for everybody. And but you got to send us something. Don't judge the book by a cover. Let us do it. And our turnaround time, 24, 48 hours, but we'll send the URL and then, like I said, but you got to send us something. And so we can take a look at it. And that's how people get on here. And I always ask, well, how'd that person get on there? Because they sent something to me. So let us look at it and, we'll go from there. So as we finish up, if there was one positive thought or phrase that you want to leave with our listeners, what would that be?
Yeah, so I think this goes back. I talked a little bit about my dad earlier in the show. His mantra was life is not a dress rehearsal. We only get one chance to do everything, so you have to make sure you're doing it to the best of your ability. And I think that's something that's really important for me, and that I share with all my friends as well. That this isn't a dress rehearsal. We only got one shot. You got to make it happen.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I've used that kind of in that same realm. Look, you get one chance.
Yeah,
First impressions are everything, and you can't get your time back. So if you're gonna
correct.
spend your time, do it, constructively, and get the best use at it, and don't look back because there's nothing back there except a scoreboard, and hopefully it's
I
got a W and not an L on there. And
I
there are no
definitely
losses. You either win or you learn. I don't even use lose in my repertoire,
I
so
love
it's
that.
in my verbiage. It's just so I'm right there with you. Dress rehearsal, hey, dress for success and go for it. So that's
Definitely.
awesome. That's awesome. If As we finish up, just a couple of things here. Number one, if you're out there on a construction site or a renovation site, or you're working on a Mindspace building, number one, we want you to be safe. We want you to be able to get home, have dinner with your kids, your spouse, your wife, your son, your pets, whatever. Get some REM sleep, be able to go do it again the next day. Number two, this is the athlete in me. You got to stay liquefied. Okay. You got to stay
Always.
hydrated. When you get dehydrated, you get headaches. You make mistakes. You make the wrong pass. Well, it could be anything. But the more water you drink, the better off. So put some electrolytes in there too. You'll feel better during the day. You'll get better sleep. You'll wake up in the morning. You won't be as groggy. And trust me, if you stay liquefied and take care of your body needs, X amount of sleep every night. Now, as a new father, this person's not getting it, Mr. Mark here, but that's okay. He tells me the his daughter Noah is programmed to sleep, so that's awesome because my kid, I didn't think he was ever going to sleep or ever get out of diapers, but he did. So, uh, but drinking and keeping yourself liquefied, oh my God, you'll feel so much better. Last but not least, hit the like button so the people can find out, in the YouTube algorithms out there. We want everybody to find this episode so they can hear what Mr. Goldfinger here had to say and all that good stuff. So, uh, Mark, when I get up to the Big Apple, I want to come up and see the Kent place in Williamsburg.
I
I'd
would
love
love
to
to
get the
have
tour for
would
sure.
love to have you. Please, you have all my contact, and obviously for all the listeners and viewers out there, anyone schedules a tour, we're happy to give you 20% off on your first month as a special thank you for listening and subscribing, of course. But come check us out. I'll be excited to give you the tour myself, David.
Hey, awesome. I listen, I take a, listen, if I come up to the New York metro area, I come up during the spring or summer. You know what I
That's
mean?
fair.
And
That's fair. We got a great
we'll
rooftop,
yeah.
beautiful rooftop at Kent. We could have some drinks upstairs, chat a little, maybe even go for a run.
Yeah, we do an event normally it's either in May or we do it in September during the San Gennaro Festival and
Okay,
in the city. But we do it in Manhattan. I don't go across the bridge. We do it in Manhattan. But
that's
now
fair.
with the way it is, people just said, "Hey, don't do it on a Monday. Don't do it on a Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday,
Correct.
Thursday, when these people are going to come into the city. And even in the summer, don't even do it on a Thursday because a lot of those people are getting out and they're going to the
Or a
Hamptons.
Tuesday.
And yeah, it's either Tuesday or Wednesday in my book.
Yeah, I
And
think Wednesday is actually the best day.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, I think, huge thank you, obviously, to the Commercial Construction Coffee Group for listening and joining in, and to yourself, David, thank you for having me and for continuing to be such great partners to Mindspace. And like I said, I'm looking forward to connecting with all of your viewers and seeing where we go from there.
Uh, Right back at you. So, everybody, listen. How about it's we're almost done with the second month of Q1. You got March coming up, and then the second quarter is going to start in April, and the days are just blowing by. You are living in the most amazing time to be alive. I mean, there's so much stuff that happens. Normally, I kind of know what's going on today, but I've been so busy every day, and then I'll lay in bed at night and I'll look at my phone and see what would happen in the world, and I just can't. There is so much stuff going on right now in the world. You are living in the most amazing time. You are seeing history being made. I don't care what side of the aisle you were on and who you voted for. I don't care. I am just telling you that you are seeing history made, and if everything gets done that they want to do, the world is going to be just a much happier place. And it's amazing what's going on. I'm mind blown when I go on my phone. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know about that, And but you can't do it. You listen. I'm a jack of all trades. I answer the phone. I change the toner on I work out of my house. I got to let the dogs out. I got to go do my run. I got to do this. I'm building my house. I got to put my construction hat on. I don't want OSHA getting yelling at me on my construction site. And but it's an amazing. So take beep. Just like Mark's got his daughter. Though each day is precious. All right. So make the best of it. And like we both said, if you're not making your bed in the morning, just try it. It'll make you feel good. Just like
I
he said,
agree.
you could have the worst day in the world and you come back and your bed's made, done. It's just a great way to live your life. And I'm so psyched that someone else, a lot of people know about that. I forget the general's name or the commander, but I know I've seen the
I
video.
gotta look back.
I know I'm going to wake up at 4 o'clock. I know what it is without Googling it. So, but
Love it.
no, that stuck with me. That keynote address, at whatever
I
school he was
agree.
doing it at, and it just hit home with me. So I use it all the time. So,
I love it.
well, Mark, say goodbye from Williamsburg.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, just below the Beaufort Dam on Lake Lanier. And listen, everybody, it's hump day today. Have a great rest of the week. You got Thursday and boom, TGIF on Friday and then the weekend ahead. Woohoo! And if you're a hockey guy, got to watch Canada US tomorrow night. I think it's tomorrow night's rivalry game and should be awesome. And listen, enjoy it because listen, like I said, it's a great time to be alive. So have a great rest of the week and we will see you next time. on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Mark, I will look you up when I come back up there. I'll give you a fair warning, and I'll bring my running shoes. No, listen, man, how far do you run every day?
Today I did about 12K, 7 miles.
Yeah, yeah. So I do 5 to 7, so I can hang with you. So
Perfect.
you're a little. I have a few years on you, but I can still bring it, man. So
I'm sure
even
you
with my
can.
two ACLs replaced, so I can still bring it. So, uh,
Nice.
all right, everybody. We will see you next time. Have a smile on your face. Cheers. See you, Mark.